She had read the message 3 times before she stood up from the kitchen table and walked to the window. Outside, her neighbor was dragging a trash can to the curb. A car passed. Everything was exactly as it had been 30 seconds ago. The message on her phone said 6 words: she didn't die. She left. There was no name attached. No follow-up, no explanation. Just those 6 words, and a photo she recognized immediately. A woman from behind, standing on the steps of a porch somewhere, dark hair pulled back, looking the other way. Claire had been 14 when she met Mara. They were assigned adjacent lockers on the first day of high school, and within a week they were inseparable, the kind of friendship that fills in the gaps a family leaves open. Mara was sharp and restless and funny in a way that made adults uncomfortable. She read books she wasn't supposed to, asked questions nobody else thought to ask, and had a laugh that was slightly too loud for every room she was in. She also had a home life that Claire didn't fully understand until they were older. Mara's father was not a violent man, but he was a controlling one. He tracked her schedule, read her messages when she left her phone unattended, and had opinions about everything she wore and everyone she spent time with. Mara talked about it the way you talk about weather, matter of fact, resigned, as if it had always been this way and always would be. The summer they were 16, Mara borrowed her older cousin's car for a road trip to the coast. Claire couldn't go. She had a summer job that week and her mother wouldn't budge. Mara went with 2 other girls from school. 3 days into the trip, the car ran off a curve on a mountain road. 1 girl was hospitalized. 1 walked away with bruises. Mara was found in the ravine, identified by the bracelet she always wore, a thin silver chain with a small crescent moon charm that her grandmother had given her. The body was badly burned. Her father buried her 2 weeks later. Claire stood at the funeral holding flowers she'd picked from her own yard, and didn't know what to do with her hands. For the next 30 years, Mara existed in the way most lost people do, in fragments. A memory that surfaced at odd moments. A song that had been playing in the car the last time they drove together. The particular way she said Claire's name, drawing out the first syllable slightly, as if the name were a small joke between them. Claire thought about her the way you think about a place you can't go back to, with affection, and with the particular flatness of something that has been grief for so long it has turned into something else entirely. She was 46 years old, and she had stopped grieving Mara the way you stop having a fever. Not all at once, gradually, and then one day you realize it's gone. The message arrived on a Tuesday. There was no context, no follow-up, no way to trace the number. Claire tried calling back immediately and reached a recording saying the line had been disconnected. She typed back "Who is this?" and never received a reply. The photo showed a woman from behind, standing on the steps of a porch. Medium height, dark hair pulled back. It could have been anyone. But it wasn't anyone. Claire knew it the moment she saw it. She couldn't have explained how. The set of the shoulders, maybe. The way the woman's head was tilted slightly to the left, the way Mara always tilted hers when she was thinking. She told herself she was being irrational. She spent 4 days trying to ignore it. Then she opened her laptop and looked up the accident report. It took her 3 weeks and more money than she expected to get a copy of the full record. The crash had happened in a remote part of the state, handled by a county sheriff's office that no longer existed in its original form. The initial report listed 1 fatality, female, age 16, identified via personal effects and approximate dental match. The records noted the body had been badly damaged by fire. There was no secondary DNA confirmation. At the time, in that county, in 1996, that wasn't unusual. She read the phrase "approximate dental match" 4 times. Then she called the only other person still in her life who had known Mara, a woman named Gwen, who had been in their circle briefly that year before moving away. Gwen remembered Mara, she remembered the accident, and when Claire told her about the message, Gwen was quiet for a long moment, and then said, "I always thought it was strange that nobody from her family went to identify her. Her father went to pick up her things, but he didn't go to the hospital. I always thought that was strange." Claire hadn't known that. She'd been 16. Nobody tells you these things when you're 16. She started looking at property records, social media profiles, county registries, anything publicly available. The photo from the message had a partial address visible at the edge of the porch, a house number and what appeared to be the start of a street name. She spent 11 days cross-referencing that detail against everything else she could find. She wasn't a detective. She had never done anything like this. She was a high school biology teacher who graded papers on Sunday nights and went to bed at 10. But she kept going. The name she found was Laura Hess, 46 years old, lived alone in a small town 4 hours north. No social media presence beyond a single outdated profile with one photo. A profile picture taken from the side, face mostly in shadow. Worked, according to a brief mention in a local news article, at a greenhouse. Had moved to that town in 1998. No record before that. Claire found a community newsletter with a short mention of a Laura Hess who had donated seedlings to a school garden project. It described her as a private person, but generous with her time. She sat with that sentence for a long time. She booked a hotel room for the following Friday, telling herself she wasn't sure what she was going to do when she got there. She told her husband she was visiting a college friend. He didn't press. In 20 years of marriage, she had learned that some things are easier to explain after the fact. She drove north on a Thursday evening, slept in a roadside motel, and arrived in the town just after 8 in the morning. It was small, a main street with a hardware store, a diner, a florist. She had found the greenhouse easily enough. Listed on a local business directory, 4 miles outside of town on a county road. She parked across the street and sat in her car for 40 minutes. She watched 2 people arrive for work. Neither of them was the woman she was looking for. Then a third person arrived on a bicycle. Dark hair, pulled back, medium height. She locked the bike to a post by the entrance, pulled off her helmet, and went inside without looking up. Claire's hands were shaking. She gripped the steering wheel and tried to breathe steadily. She thought about everything she had been carrying since she was 16. The absence of it, the shape of it, the way grief becomes so familiar you stop recognizing it as grief. She thought about Mara's laugh. Too loud for every room. She got out of the car. She walked to the entrance of the greenhouse and went inside. It smelled like soil and warm air and green things. The woman with dark hair was at a work table near the back, arranging something in small clay pots. She didn't look up immediately. When she did, her face changed. Not dramatically. Not the way faces change in movies, with tears and gasps and recognition so large it fills the room. It was quieter than that. A stillness. A particular kind of stillness that Claire had only ever seen on one other person's face, 30 years ago, when Mara was about to say something true. Neither of them spoke for a long moment. A radio somewhere in the back of the greenhouse was playing something quiet. Outside, a truck passed on the county road. The woman at the work table set down what she was holding. Carefully, the way you set down something you might need later. She looked at Claire the way a person looks at something they have been expecting and dreading in equal measure. Claire said her name, Mara's name, the old one. The woman didn't deny it. She didn't confirm it either. She asked, very quietly, how Claire had found her. Claire told her about the message, the photo. The woman's expression shifted, something moving behind it that Claire couldn't fully read. She said, I didn't send that. They stood in the warm greenhouse air, surrounded by growing things, and Claire understood something she hadn't let herself fully understand on the drive up. She didn't know what she wanted from this. She had told herself she only wanted to know the truth, but the truth was standing in front of her, and it didn't settle anything. It just changed the shape of what she was carrying. She thought about Mara's father, who was in his 80s now, living in a retirement community 2 states away. She thought about what it would mean to make a call, to file something, to tell someone officially. She thought about a 16-year-old girl who had seen a way out of her life and had taken it, and who had spent 30 years building something new out of the silence on the other side. She asked one question, just one. She asked, "Are you okay?" The woman looked at her for a long time, long enough that a second truck passed outside, and the radio in the back switched to something else. Then she said yes, quietly, without decoration. Claire believed her. She didn't stay long after that. There wasn't much to say, or rather, there was too much, and none of it belonged in a greenhouse on a Friday morning. Claire drove back to her hotel. She sat on the edge of the bed for a while. Then she drove home. She didn't call anyone. She didn't file anything. She didn't tell her husband what she'd found, not that day, and not for several months after. The story was not hers to tell. She had walked into it from the outside, following a thread someone else had dropped, and she had found the end of it. That felt like enough. What she thought about, in the weeks that followed, was not Mara, not the woman in the greenhouse, not the life she had built, not the 30 years of silence. She thought about the message. The 6 words. She had still not figured out who sent it. She never would, but someone knew. Someone had watched that woman build her quiet life and had decided, after all this time, that someone else deserved to know it was there. She didn't know what to make of that. Some things you carry not because they're resolved, but because there's nowhere to put them down. The last time she'd seen Mara, the real Mara, the 16-year-old version, before any of this, was the afternoon before she left on that trip. They had sat on the hood of a neighbor's car, eating ice cream that was melting faster than they could finish it, and Mara had said something Claire had been turning over for 30 years. She had said, "I keep thinking there's a version of my life that's better than this one." Claire had said, "There is." She still believes that, it's just not the version she ever imagined.